Good, bro.
This is bottom left to the right. All Father of the universe.
Lord, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
And
Justice.
justice.
Love my protector.
Allah, my protector.
My guide.
And
My salvation.
my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through Holy Prophet.
The Holy Prophet.
Noble Jordan.
Noble Jordan.
Islam.
Islam. Thanks, man. Now, Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at home, while at work, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their carding button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Ali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That's why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Ali, and that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Ali. Islam. Peace, man. So somebody sent me an article. One of the Moors sent an article, so I just wanted to put this out there with regard to does the foreigner recognize the Moors? Does the people who people say are the government, do they know who the Moors are, or are we just, you know, some black group talking whatever, right? So this is from the Library of Congress, The Founding Fathers and Islam is the name of the article. With more than 55 million items, the library's manuscript division contains the papers of 23 presidents, from George Washington to Calvin Coolidge. In this article, Manuscript Division Chief James Hudson draws upon the papers of Washington by Thomas Jefferson and other primary documents to discuss the relationship of Islam to the new nation. Many Muslims feel unwelcome in the United States in the aftermath of September 11th, according to newspaper reports. Anecdotal evidence suggests that substantial numbers of Americans view their Muslim neighbors as an alien presence outside the limits of American life and history, while other minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, and Native Americans, were living within the boundaries of the present United States from the earliest days of the nation. Muslims are perceived to have had no part in the American experience. Now, the generalization that they're making is that there's two different parties that they're dealing with. They're dealing with the European parties, who just started a new nation here, and Islam. Not being specific as to where. They're bringing up September 11th because of, you know, the Muslim story behind that, who did it or whatever, right? But the historical reference point that they're making was the relationship between Catholicism, Christianity, and Islam and everything else from the East, right? The acceptance of these foreign people starting a new nation is what this is talking about. How they embrace this idea of Islam. It wasn't nothing like they're doing today, like, oh no, we don't want that, or, you know, putting this negative thing on it. From a historical perspective, is the connection to Islam is greater than just some Muslim thing. It's a historical reference point they're making, not a religious reference point. And the historical reference point of the relationship between Europeans always has to go back to the Moors first. Because when you look into who we are as a people, we're the founders of civilization because everything came from our people, right? And anybody else who had to do anything had to get sanctioned by us before they could do whatever it is that they were doing. So they set up their colonies and said, we're going to be here doing whatever, and nobody questioned how is it that they got these 13 colonies and all that, you know. What template did they follow to have a Declaration of Independence and all these different documents that they're using as their historical reference points for who it is that they are, without putting us in the story, right? And remember that this is the Library of Congress. So if it's in here, then there has to be some type of historical relevancy to it for them to have it in the Library of Congress. Readers may be surprised to learn that there may be hundreds, perhaps thousands of Muslims in the United States in 1776, imported as slaves from areas of Africa where Islam flourished. Although there is no evidence that the founders were aware of the religious convictions of their bondsmen, it is clear that the founding fathers thought about the relationship of Islam to the new nation and were prepared to make a place for it in the republic. So their whole everything that they're doing is hinged on what it is our foremothers and forefathers did. And then we get caught looking at what they're doing opposed to looking at what our foremothers and forefathers were doing and what position did they hold for these people to say, we're going to hinge our stuff on Islam. We're going to set up our thing, but we're going to make a place so that Islam could be accepted and acknowledged, appreciated, whatever. In this seminal letter on toleration, 1689, John Locke insists that Muslims and all others who believe in God be tolerated in England. Campaigning for religious freedom in Virginia, Jefferson followed Locke, his idol, in demanding recognition for the religious rights of the Mohammedan, M-A-H-A-M-D-A-N, Mohammedan, the Jew, and the pagan, quote unquote. Supporting Jefferson was his only ally, Richard Henry Lee, who had made a motion in Congress on June 7th, 1776, that the American colonies declare independence. True freedom, Lee asserted, embraces the Mohammedan and the Hindu as well as the Christian religion. Right. This is the mindset of the founding fathers of the people who are out here today. They got Confederate flags or, United States flag, and we are American and all this stuff or whatever. Right? Well, your foremothers and forefathers have some constitutional obligations with Islam and us. And our dealings with them have to be on that we know that. We know that you have obligations. It's not if you have any, or the point is you have them, because you have to go back to the foremothers, forefathers, and in going back to them, you realize these relations. And in the times of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, we were never on the bottom, like how we're looking at ourselves today. Like generations, as soon as we start accepting we're everything else except who our ancient foremothers were, then we start falling. And remember, all these things are documents that they have in their archives, which are supposed to be confirmation to people. The confirmation of the reality that we're not just saying this thing because of some group. It's not because of some religion why we're saying we're Mormons. Like there is a historical part of this that has been buried, and the resurgence of this is what's going to get everything back in harmony. And again, it's due to this obligation. You have to just look at obligation in that proof. In his autobiography, Jefferson recounted with satisfaction that in the struggle to pass his landmark Bill of Establishing Religious Freedom, 1786, the Virginia legislature rejected by a great majority an effort to limit the bill's scope, in proof that they meant to comprehend with the mantle of its protection the Jew and the Gentile, the Christian and Mohammedan. George Washington suggested a way for Muslims to obtain proper relief from a proposed Virginia bill, laying taxes to support Christian worship. On another occasion, the first president declared that he would welcome Mohammedans to Mount Vernon if they were good workmen. Officials in Massachusetts were equally insistent that their influential Constitution of 1780 afforded the most ample liberty of conscience, the deists, Mohammedans, Jews, and Christians, a point that Chief Justice Theophilus Parsons resoundingly affirmed in 1810. So Their whole thing is based off of Gnosticism. Their whole thing is based off of Kabbalah and Judaism. Their whole thing is based off of Islam. Their whole thing is based off of mystical sciences and arts or whatever. And they take Trump or Trudeau or whatever, put them in front of a church, and then people think that they're Christian or they have something to do with that branch. When their foremothers and forefathers learned for our foremothers and forefathers, and everything that they have is because they got aspects of what we had left for them. And then they're taking their little 33 degrees of 360 degrees and ruling the world with it. And then we don't know about, you know, part of the reason of our downfall is us not adopting our stuff and us being limited to only things that are confirmed by the so-called establishment or government or whatever is what it must be. Can't be anything else other than what they say it is. Right? Toward Islam itself, the founding generation held differing views. An evangelical Baptist spokesman denounced Muhammad as a hateful figure who, unlike the meek and gentle Jesus, spread his religion at the point of a sword. A Presbyterian preacher in rural South Carolina dusted off Grotius's 17th century reproach that the religion of Muhammad originated in arms, breathed nothing but arms, is propagated by arms. Other more influential observers had a great view of Muslims. In 1783, the president of Yale College, Ezra Stiles, cited a study showing that Mohammedan morals were far superior to the Christian. Another New Englander believed that the moral principles that were inculcated by their teachers had a happy tendency to render them good members of society. The reference here, as other commentators made clear, was to Islam's belief, which it shared with Christianity, in a future state of rewards and punishments, a system of celestial carrots and sticks, with the founding generation considered necessary to guarantee good social conduct. A Mohammedan, wrote a Boston newspaper columnist, is excited to the practice of good morals in hopes that after the resurrection, he shall enjoy the beautiful girls of paradise to all eternity. He is afraid to commit murder, adultery, and theft, lest he should be cast into hell, where he must drink scalding water and scum of the damned. Benjamin Rush, the Pennsylvania signer of the Declaration of Independence, and Fred of Adams and Jefferson, applauded this feature of Islam, asserting that he had rather see the opinions of Confucius or Muhammad inculcated upon our youth than seeing them wholly grow up devoid of a system of religious principles. Benjamin Rush, the Pennsylvania signer of the Declaration of Independence and friend of Adams and Jefferson, applauded this feature of Islam, asserting that he had rather see the opinions of Confucius or Muhammad inculcated upon our youth than see them grow up wholly devoid of a system of religious principles. You have obligation.
Yeah, so obligation, a generic word derived from Latin substantial obligato, having many wide and varied meanings according to the context in which it is used. And there's a case law there, that which a person is bound to do or forbid. And any duty imposed by law, promise, contract, relations of society, courtesy, kindness, etc. And then there's another one. It says that which constitutes a legal or moral duty and which renders a person liable to coercion and punishment for neglecting it. The word of broad meaning and the particular meaning intended is to be gained by consideration of its context. An obligation or debt may exist by reason of a judgment as well as any express contract in which, in either case, there being a legal duty on the part of the one bound to comply with the promise. There's a case like that.
Right. So when we're talking about founding fathers, presidents, constitutions, and all those things, that's not religion. But all they seem to be talking about is religion. Or is that stuff really government? And it's perceived as religious because of certain words that are used, right? So that when someone sees Moors and then they see Black Fez, international people know Black Fez is Mufti. They know that already. That's not a religious thing. Mufti is not a religious thing. That's a government. That's not an Islamic thing like that. So even with the context of with here, right? There was a suit that was filed. There was a suit that was filed by some people called Vaccine Choice Canada. Vaccine Choice Canada was the plaintiff. And the defendants were Chief Medical Officer of Windsor, Essex, Queen, Justin Trudeau, Mark Garneau, Ford, you name them, everybody, right? Their statement of claim is based in historical reference point to know what jurisdiction to pull people in. So this is their claim. As agent of the Crown and municipal defendants, the plaintiffs claim a declaration that the COVID measures undertaken and orchestrated by Prime Minister Trudeau and the federal Crown constitute a constitutional violation of dispensing with Parliament under the pretense of royal prerogative, contrary to the English Bill of Rights 1689, as read into our unwritten constitutional rights through the preamble of the Constitution Act of 1867, emanating from the unwritten constitutional principles of rule of law, constitutionalism, democracy, as enunciated by the Supreme Court in inter alia Quebec succession reference. Now, if they're here in this jurisdiction, and this is supposed to be a country and all that stuff, how come they're using the English Bill of Rights, not something Canadian, to deal with these other people who they know are foreign here, right? They know that they're foreign here, but they're not holding them to the law here. They're holding them to English law. How are they holding them to English law here? Unless they're putting them into the jurisdiction of the obligation that these people have. That if they do come over here under whatever of the Queen or whatever like that, right? if they do come over here, then they can be held to something and not be able to just do whatever it is that they want. Right? So it goes back to the same thing with the colonies, that they know they're foreigners here. They know that they're foreign. They're not supposed to be doing certain things, being that they're foreign. Right? Our position is that we're going back to our ancient foremothers and forefathers' nationality and creed. With that comes everything that happened that had nothing to do with us because we weren't there. But these things are historical reference points that are able and should be able to be used in order for us to show our position with regard to us and them. Because if these people are going to get sued under some English Bill of Rights that has nothing to do with here, and then the suit's going to get filed, and then all those people are going to be on the list, and then they're still out here going on TV and stuff like that, as if there's not some stuff that's filed against them right now. The news people aren't even, they're not even covering it. Right? No, it's the declaration again, or the claim that these people are making. A declaration that the COVID measures taken by both Trudeau and Ford and their respective governments at the blind and unquestioned dictates of the World Health Organization, bureaucrats, constitute a constitutional violation of the abdication of the duty to govern as enunciated in inter alia the Regret and Canada Wheat Board versus Hallett and Carey Limited, decisions of the Supreme Court of Canada. A declaration that the COVID measures undertaken by Trudeau and his officials violate Section 2, 7, 8, 9, and 15 of the Charter, specifically the measures of self-isolation, social distancing, the compulsory wearing of face masks, arbitrary and unjustified closure of business, in that the measures were not scientifically or medically based nor proven to be effective whatsoever, pose physical and psychological harm, and are extreme, unwarranted, and unjustified, and that the measures violate Section 2, right of association, 7, life, liberty, and security of person, 8, unlawful search and seize, 9, arbitrary detention by enforcement officers, 15, equality before and under the law, and further not in accordance with the tenets of fundamental justice, and in their overbreadth, nor are they justified under Section 1 of the Charter, in that they are not demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. And then it's sort of justified, because when you say democratic, you're really putting yourself back in the jurisdiction that you just sued them to get out of. Because as soon as you hold them to democratic, now they have jurisdiction again. And they can pretend as if this doesn't exist or whatever like that, and they're not getting sued or whatever, and they'll have their boys play the same game. Right? Any questions or comments? The ordinary citizens, this is going back to the Founding Fathers and Islam article. The ordinary citizen shared these positive views is demonstrated by the petition of a group of citizens of Chesterfield County, Virginia, to the State Assembly, November 14th, 1785. Let Jews, Mohammedans, and Christians of every denomination enjoy religious liberty. Thrust them not out now by establishing the Christian religion, lest thereby we become our own enemies and weaken this infant state. It is men's labor in our manufactories, their services by sea and land, that aggrandize our country, and not their creeds. Chain your citizens to the state by their interest. Let Jews, Mohammedans, Christians of every denomination find their advantage in living under your laws. The founders of this nation explicitly included Islam in their vision of the future of the Republic. Freedom of religion, as they conceived it, encompassed it. Adherents of the faith were, with some exceptions, regarded as men and women who would make law-abiding, productive citizens. Far from fearing Islam, the founders would have incorporated it into the fabric of American life. And then when you realize the connection to Islam here in America is why it would be so easy for them to do that. Set up some Christian thing and then allow Islam to whatever, because yeah, you're in an Islamic place. You're not in a Christian place. You're imposing your Christian place on an Islamic place and then saying that the Islamic could do something. Now that we're good, Mark.
I was just going to say that this is all in conjunction with what the Constitution was initially geared towards, which from my perspective was that 10-mile radius. If you're talking about sort of all this constitutional stuff, all of that was a compact made from foreigners coming here that we're then trying to use as if that supersedes the law of the land, which is us. They would have to incorporate that on a certain level because that was the basis of everything.
Right.
And what you're taking that from is a perspective, you're looking at this from the perspective that it's all across America. That was going to be in a 10-mile radius. That's what that Constitution was and still stands for. It's that 10-mile radius in D.C., right? The District of Columbia was that landmass, right? Or was that mass that we're talking about? Anything else that we see going on here is the overthrow of the natural born government here.
Right. That was happening here before them.
Huh?
The government that was here before them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the compact to let those guys have a little bit of space here to do some
Right.
work.
Yeah.
And then
But that space was the 13 colonies. Like the whole Washington D.C. is the United States when they say government.
Yeah, they were talking. No, but they were talking about that being the landmass for all those, or that being the geographic area where all of that.
Yeah,
all
of the United States. Yeah, of the United States.
The United States.
Yeah, but the
European Guild. Not
Right.
the United States of us as the United States, the Republic being us. That was for them, right?
No, but the Republic is them.
Right. Well, but
So
the
that
compact is with us.
the compact, but the compact's not for us.
No,
We're
absolutely not.
We're not the ones who have to go by it.
No, absolutely not. But that was for them. That was to allow them, because that would give them a standard to allow them to then come and do business and live here.
Right.
And contract here.
Through the 13 colonies.
Yeah.
And then
okay,
being
so-
limited to that jurisdiction of the 13
enough.
colonies.
But fair enough, but that's where it sort of allows a latitude for certain laws happening in certain states and certain things to go on.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there would be two laws that we would be being governed by, correct? The
Well,
law
not-
that would
well-
be for them, which was supposed to be for English-born people,
Right. That would be their law.
their law,
Yeah.
and then there would be our law.
Right.
And that's where it all came into the fact that if anything went wrong, you were then supposed to return this person
Right.
that place,
To whatever place and
and all that
handle
stuff
it.
is been overthrown.
Right.
So, no, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I think what happens is it's sort of the same thing they talk about retroactively, you're sort of retroactively applying this stuff to what it was before, and it wasn't that. all this stuff that you're seeing that's happening now is all illegal stuff that really should have never gone on. But went on through the fact that we sort of signed up and then dropped the ball.
Right.
We're now suffering that stuff as if that stuff is law. And then they're sort of retroactively bringing it back in as if that was what the standard was in the beginning.
As far as what they're doing now.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a sort of give a validation that this is why, bro, you were here by our consent.
Yeah.
And really should just be barely hanging on to some stuff here. And instead you've now made this the law and made our perception seem like anything that happened before this kind of doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, no, I'm just sort of trying to remind us that we have to look at this, that we have to go back before that. And that was only a couple hundred years ago. And as we did, we continue to see how much of it all relates to us. That's what this whole article is telling you. In some roundabout, vague way about Islam, they're telling you that this stuff it was everything.
Yeah.
Christianity, all that stuff came out. They don't want to sort of give you that, right? From that perspective. So, anyways, Islam.
Islam. Right.
No, as I said, the point that I had been making was just for us to remember that that inherently this is all us, and that one of my concerns was in seeing that they still seem to kind of putting a rub on it somehow. We need to go over to them, right?
So, any other comments or questions? So I want to get some points out again with this suit. Association a declaration that the municipal COVID measures enacted by bylaw and orders by the City of Toronto and conduct of John Tory are ultra vires the Provincial Act and regulations and are further unconstitutional and are of no force and effect for breaches of right of association, Section 2, Section 7, life, liberty, and security of a person, Section 8, unlawful search and seizure, Section 9, arbitrary detention by bylaw officers, Section 15 of the Charter, specifically measures of self-isolation, social distancing, the compulsory wearing of face masks, arbitrary and unjustified closure of businesses, the closure of schools, daycares, park amenities, and playgrounds, the discontinuance of access of education, medical, dental, chiropractic, naturopathic, hearing, dictary, therapeutic, and other support for the physically and mentally disabled, particularly special needs children with neurological disorders, the closing down of religious places of worship, in that the measures are not scientifically nor medically effective whatsoever, pose physical and psychological harm, and are extreme, unwarranted, and unjustified, and that the measures violate Section 2, right of association, life, liberty, and security of person, Section 8, unlawful search and seizure, Section 9, arbitrary detention by enforcement officers, Section 15, equality before and under the law, are not in accordance with the tenets of fundamental justice in their overbreadth, nor are they justified under Section 1, Oath of Charter, and that they are not demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Right? And that the people, the Vaccine Canada people, put the suit in, but they had a lawyer do it, opposed to one of them do it. Right? Which again brings jurisdiction to the table. Because if they're a foreigner, then they can't make this claim. They're going to have to hire the guy who works for them in order to be able to even file this. Right? Which is where the whole thing with, you know, they set it up in the beginning that they're dealing with the English Bill of Rights. Now they're talking about charter stuff because of the succession of the documents, just like with the Constitution saying that, you know, it's Constitution and treaties. That's the law of the land. There's a pattern of documents that tie to each other in order to, whenever they get out of hand, pull them back on the obligation, because one of these things that they're using ties to something, that ties to something, that ties to, in this case, English Bill of Rights. That they knew from the start to start there with these people if they're going to hold them to any type of obligation. Right. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, I think that this only speaks to sort of the discussion we had in the past with regards to small P persons versus large P persons. And the argument, they're making an argument on or they're taking a position that should be a de jure position within de facto sort of environment. But then they're using the very inception of this, which all comes from England, because the colony, even though it's chartered, is still a byproduct of England.
Right.
So they're tying themselves back to the source with the argument, but in a sense they're caught from the perspective that they're making an argument that courts really can't make on a certain level, and that in my perspective also is sort of rife for a lot of issues because they're working within the systems, and are thus sort of probably going to get run over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you see what I'm saying there, right? That they're still beholden
to Europe. They're not.
Yes, they're beholden back to them.
Yeah.
They can make here, trying to use the law of England to try to protect them here.
No, but it's the people who are suing.
Yeah.
Are the ones making the reference point of holding the governmental people to the English Bill of Rights.
Right. But what we're arguing is that somehow over here is not over there.
Right. But so the only reason that they're doing that is because they're dealing with foreigners. They're not sued. They're not sued. Exactly. They themselves got licenses and corporate documents.
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to get at with the whole perspective that they're arguing for some de jure stuff here, but they're foreigners arguing with their foreigner brothers about holding them to a law that has really no application.
Right. Right.
By using the law back there.
Right.
When initially started this all off,
Mm-hmm.
which was unlawful.
Yeah.
All right. So now I just want to be clear.
Yeah. Any comments, questions? Sure. A declaration that any mandatory vaccine scheme against any purported COVID-19 by way of mandatory vaccine without informed consent is unconstitutional and no force and effect, in that it infringes 2 of the Charter in violating freedom of conscience, religion, and thought, infringes Section 7, life, liberty, and security of the person, in violating physical and psychological integrity, in denying the right to choose based on informed medical consent, breaches the same parallel rights recognized prior to the Charter as written constitutional rights through the preamble of the Constitution Act 1867, breaches parallel international treaty rights to no medical treatment without informed consent and right to bodily integrity, which international treaty rights are to be read in, as a minimal, 7 Charter protection as enunciated by the Supreme Court of Canada, inter alia the Hague decision, and that under no circumstances are mandatory vaccines nor coerced compliance to vaccines in accordance with the tenets of the fundamental justice, nor demonstrable justified under Section 1 of the Charter. A declaration that social distancing, self-isolation, and limits as to the number of persons who can physically congregate and where they can congregate violates the second charter rights to the freedom of association, thought, belief, and religion in banning association, including religious gatherings, and further restricting physical and psychological liberty and security of the person rights under Section 7 of the Charter, and are not in accordance with the tenets of fundamental justice or demonstrably justified under 1 of the Charter. So how they keep holding them to obligations of charter obligation, violates charter, section whatever of the Charter. Our reference points would be the international law documents, the American Declaration of Rights documents, because the jurisdiction that we're speaking from is broader than their jurisdiction of just being able to talk about the Charter. So the openness that they're speaking about, it's not really like that, because they're only speaking Charter violations. They're not really speaking about violations of an international body. It's limited to their 1867 and the things of what Noble Jolly was talking about enforcing the Constitution. That in enforcing the Constitution, you're holding them to something. You're letting them know that you know that they don't have certain jurisdiction to do certain things based on the knowledge that we have of these relations. You know, just like it's like what Zodiac Constitution would say, Magna Carta, for example, is their thing that on that level of jurisdiction, you call them on that. As far as when you're dealing with Great Seal or whatever, you're not holding them to just the Constitution only. You're going to pull them back to the 1200s with Magna Carta, opposed to some English Bill of Rights that was just 6 Europeans came together and wrote up some stuff. We're talking about some, using things that have relevancy to people to show that they would lack the jurisdiction to have certain claims or be able to make certain claims. So, like, again, the things that they're talking about in the suit are things from the moral perspective, is the arguments that they can make. But from the law perspective, just the fact that a lawyer filed it, you already waived, right? Because the lawyer is an officer of the court, so he's not really on the side of the plaintiff like that. Now, if the lawyer did it pro bono, maybe if the lawyer said, no, I'm not going to take no fee, I'll do it, and then you can pay me later, then it might have that power, but it still doesn't because they have the lawyer. Oh, right. Because remember, he's also barred, so he don't want to lose his license. If he's quote unquote a lawyer like that, he don't want to lose his license. And so he's gonna walk the line the best that he can to at least try to get something out of it for them, but not push as hard as making a claim from us to them would be. And the way that we would talk versus how the quote unquote lawyer would. A declaration that the arbitrary, irrational, and standardless sweep of closing businesses and stores as non-essential and the manner of determining and executing those closures constitutes unreasonable search and seizure contrary to the Section 8 of the Charter and not demonstrably justified under Section 1 of the Charter. A declaration that the declared rationales and motives and execution of COVID measures by World Health Organization are not related to a bona fide nor an actual quote-unquote pandemic, and declaration of a bona fide pandemic, but for other political and socio-economic reasons, motives, and measures at the behest of global billionaire, corporate, and organizational oligarchs. A declaration that prohibits the obstacles to protest against COVID measures in Ontario and in Toronto are a violation of the constitutional rights to the freedoms of expression, conscience, belief, and association, assembly, and petition under Section 2 of the Charter, and not demonstrably justified by Section 1, as well as a violation of these constitutional rights recognized prior to the Charter through the preamble of the Constitution Act of 1867 and against international treaty rights protected by Section 7 of the Charter. And they go in 100 and something pages. 100 and something pages of something here of them suing because of these things that they're implementing, which, you know, everybody except our people take into consideration having rights and watching them get stripped away from you. Right? People who have certain national principles, they don't get into getting their rights violated. You know what I mean? Somebody wouldn't even think, oh yeah, let's violate those people. They wouldn't even go there. Right? A declaration that any and all municipal, county bylaws and or orders with respect to compulsory face mask are ultra vires the provincial legislation in the province has extremely refused to make face masking compulsory. So showing you about the jurisdiction of powers, that yes, the municipal has power to do certain things, but if provincial is not back in the municipal thing, the municipal thing is kind of just running rogue, kind of. It's not really legitimately running from that perspective, right? Because the province should be backing them. The province should be standing up behind what the municipal is saying, but if they're not even having the conversation, then it's letting it be known, right, that they're dealing with different jurisdictional authority and acknowledging the jurisdictional authority, right, in regard to what it is that they're talking about, because it's not like the vaccine, whoever people are looking at it from some individual perspective. You know what I mean? Like they're saying on behalf of the plaintiffs will be the people of Canada and whoever gave them a 500 and whoever gave them a 10 and whoever gave them whatever, we're suing. And then they list all the people who are quote unquote part of the government, just based on the COVID thing only. Right? A declaration that the unjustified, irrational, and arbitrary decisions of which businesses would remain open and which would close as being essential or not was designed and implemented to favor mega corporations and to de facto put most small businesses and activities out of business. A declaration that the defendants, federal crown, and its agencies and officials, including but not restricted to the CRTC, have by glaring acts and omissions breached the rights of the plaintiff to freedom of speech, expression, and the press by not taking any action to curtail what has been described by UK scientific community as Stalinist censorship, particularly the CBC in knowingly refusing to cover, publish the valid and sound criticism of the COVID measures by recognized experts. Like I'm saying, they got 190 something pages of stuff they brought to them as far as their suit because of these constitutional violations that people are making. So if they can do this on the level where they're at, like we're saying, they went out, just got a lawyer and they filed suit, okay, then this is how the organization with our people supposed to be. Just like this. There's no marching up and down the place or whatever like that. Whoever wants it, was it 500 to put the suit? All right, so we got 10 from him, 5 from him, whatever like that, and we put a suit. But again, their issue is going to be just like these people, that either they're going to have a lawyer do it, and of course it's going to be some civil right, whatever, Negro lawyer, so they're not really going to get anything, right, if they do get something, right? And then if they do it on their own, they would have to be in their proper person in order to even be able to file it like that. They can't file it as Negro, black, colored, because they're going to get Dred Scott plaintiff and error. So I'm just scrolling through and just picking sections of this to read. The further facts. COVID-19, the timeline. In 2000, Bill Gates steps down as Microsoft CEO and creates the Gates Foundation, and along with other partners launches the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. The Gates Foundation has given Gavi approximately $4.1 billion. Gates has further lobbied other organizations such as the World Economic Forum and governments to donate to Gavi, including Canada and its current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has donated over $1 billion to Gavi. In 2002, scientists engaged in gain-of-function research that seek to generate viruses with properties that do not exist in nature and to alter a pathogen to make it more transmittable to humans or deadly. In November 2002, China's Guangdong province reports the first case of atypical pneumonia, later labeled as SARS. In the same month, at the University of North Carolina, announced the creation of a synthetic clone of a mouse coronavirus. On the 28th, on the 28th, 2003, The Barrett Group at UNC announces a synthetic recreation of the SARS virus. In 2005, research demonstrates that chloroquine is a potent inhibitor of SARS coronavirus infection and transmission. From 2009 to present, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donates millions to the Imperial College of London and further funded the debunking modeling of Neil Ferguson at the ICL that set the COVID-19 pandemic declaration in motion and acceleration through the World Health Organization and governments around the globe following suit. January 2010, Bill Gates pledges $10 billion in funding for the World Health Organization and announces the decade of vaccines. In fact, Bill Gates and Gavi are the second and third funders of the WHO after the US government. Currently, the USA, through its president, has cut off funding to WHO for loss of confidence in it. Various other countries have also expelled the WHO on allegations of corruption, attempted bribery of its officials, and lack of confidence. May 2010, the Rockefeller Foundation writes a report later leaked unintentionally from within the organization with a study of a future pandemic scenario where an unknown virus escapes Wuhan, China, and a hypothetical scenario on what the appropriate response would be, and its core scenario entitled How to Secure Global Governance in a Pandemic. The plaintiffs state, and the fact is, that the scenario scripted in this 2010 report is what has unfolded during the COVID-19 so-called pandemic. In 2011, a review of the literature of the British Columbia Center for Disease Control to evaluate the effectiveness of social distancing measures such as school closures, travel restrictions, and restrictions on mass gatherings to address an influenza pandemic concluded that such drastic restrictions are not economically feasible and are predicted to delay viral spread but not impact over morbidity. In May 2012, the 194 member states of the World Health Assembly endorsed the Global Vaccine Action Plan, led by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in collaboration with Gavi and the World Health Organization. In 2014, under President Obama, the National Institute of Health halts federal funding for gain of function research. The funding hiatus applies to 21 studies reasonably anticipated to confer attributes to influenza, MERS, or SARS viruses, such that the virus would have enhanced pathogenicity and or transmissibility in mammals via the respiratory route. National Institute of Health later allows 10 of the studies to resume. In 2015, NIAID awards a 5-year, $3.7 million grant to conduct gain-of-function studies on the risk of bat coronavirus emergence. 10% of the award goes to Wuhan, China Institute of Virology. In 2015, at a public appearance, Bill Gates states, "We are taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we are injecting them into little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein." 2017, Dr. Mark Lipsitch of the Harvard School of Public Health tells the New York Times that the type of gain-of-function experiments endorsed by Dr. Fauci and NIAID have done almost nothing to improve our preparedness for pandemics, and yet risked creating an accidental pandemic. At the 219 World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, on January 23, 2019, on a CNBC interview, Bill Gates boasts that he expects to have a 20-fold return on his $10 billion vaccine investment in the next few decades. 20-fold return on vaccines. British and French researchers published a study, May 5th, 2020, estimating that COVID-19 could have started as early as October 6, 2019. On October 18th through 27th, 2019, Wuhan, China hosts the World Military Games, held every 4 years, where more than 9,000 athletes from 100 countries compete. The telecom systems of the athletes' village are powered with 5G technology, showcasing its infrastructure and technological prowess. On October 18, 2019, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum, and the Johns Hopkins Center of High Security convened an invitation-only tabletop exercise called Event 201 to map out the response to a hypothetical global coronavirus pandemic. November to December 2019, general practitioners in northern Italy start noticing a strange pneumonia. December 2nd, 3rd, 2019, vaccine scientists attended the WHO's Global Vaccine Safety Summit, confirms major problems with vaccine safety around the world. So these are just some of the claims that they're making in their suit. Any comments or questions? Please, man. That's good. No questions? Good, bro.
So, what did I miss?
Well, we pretty much just went through this suit that Vaccine Choice Canada filed against pretty much everybody out here, and then we read an article on the founding fathers and Islam. But yeah, but you know that everything's uploaded, so you can recheck, you know, the upload. So,
I have a small question.
go ahead, bro.
Do we still need to get the vaccine or no?
Well, what you're going to be using is freedom of conscience,
Okay.
right? So freedom of conscience is that if you know that something's wrong, you don't have to do it,
Okay.
right? You're not, you know, unless they're going to force you to do it,
Yeah.
which that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But based on the research done on vaccines and stuff like that, vaccines isn't a good thing for humanity.
So that means then don't get it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Please, bro.
So like with the COVID, right? All these new and old diseases are popping up in Asia, like the Black Plague. Somebody contracted the Black Plague and swine flu. Do you think these things are actually real or is this propaganda?
And so, majority of it is going to be some type of propaganda, because they have to amp up the need for one. So the best way to do that is to have more stuff out there, whether they say it or whether they don't now. Like one of the things that they're using now is they've been using the map to show with the borders.
Yeah.
You can't close the borders because look, down here is red and up there is blue. So you want the red to go into the blue or whatever. Well, borders not stopping nothing like that. This is an airborne thing. How's the border stopping the thing? Right? Like how? If they don't have the wall going all the way across or whatever, with the mesh that like the stuff can't go through, then you have to start questioning something, and again, like we know that they're doing something because we know about chemtrails, so we know they're doing something. Whatever they say, there's something diabolical going on behind the scenes that they didn't tell you. 10 years later, we find out that, that's what they did with the socks or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's the age of manipulation right now. You know what I mean? This is the time that we're in. It's almost like a make-believe thing, almost, because you really don't know what's what. They were showing they got the robots. They're looking like real people. Like just dude sitting on a chair. The man went behind him and opened his head and just wires himself in there. That was a dude sitting in the chair. You know what I mean? And those things could have been out here. Just like that was the whole point of with Terminator and stuff like that, and then have half the face peeled off with the metal guy underneath or whatever. There's all the stuff that they're showing us right now. So you have to take it with where you're at. But just like Juali said, they're going to be trying every weak mind to try to overthrow the truth that's out there. They put whatever up just to see if it catches. If it catches, all right, then they're going with it. If it doesn't catch, they got about 10 other things that they're about to throw out just to see what's gonna happen. Any other questions, comments?
Well, sir. I just watched the news with my folks, and they were talking about there was this doctor that came on CNN that's staying there, but he was talking about the vaccine and how we're supposed to get it, this, that, the other. And my parents, they were right. They said that if you see someone telling you to don't take it, don't take it.
Yeah.
You understand me? And furthermore, don't listen to other people who telling you to take the vaccine. You understand? And in your mind, just say to yourself, no, just walk away. If somebody telling you to take it, just walk away. That's what I did.
Yeah. Another one? Well, whatever you got, you can get. You can get it all out. You get it all out.
Like the contact tracing, right? Like I was reading that in America, like it's every time your phone updates on the Samsung and the iPhone, that like it advances more, where to the point where like say right now if somebody came here and they had COVID, the system would tell the government and the government would contact everybody here and tell you to stay at home
Right.
for 14 days.
Mhm.
Are they gonna do the same thing in Canada and in Canaanland or
Well, they already got the thing going off, the alert for when people go missing or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's it right there. It's just not a COVID message on the thing. You know what I mean? So the implementation of it is already there. They just have to change the message on the thing. You know? You had something more?
Well, just to add in, I think, as I said, part of our issue is to keep looking at the symptoms, not the cause. The cause is that we don't have our stuff together. We don't have our own phone system. We don't have all of that, don't have our own land. We're still being beholden to see what they're saying, what they're going to do to us. So this is where I would say that we have to start looking at how, we have to see how corrupt the system is, but we also have to start looking at how we want to bring ourselves back to that level where you're asking questions to him about what policies they're gonna do. I mean, as I said, these policies have already been implemented.
Yeah.
It's whether we want to really recognize what they are, as to what they are, really are, and what we're gonna do about them. I mean, that's where I feel sometimes the focus needs to be shifted. Because I think what happens is we get caught up in trying to understand why they're doing it or what rights we have with them. And I think that gives them back their power again.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're focused on what they're doing.
Yeah. Because I said, because the focus thing is energy too, right? So like when we're looking at the things that's being presented, just like I said, if it's coming from their medium, you probably want to be light with how much you take. You know what I mean? Because you already know what their medium is about. You know what I mean? And again, we have drew all these reference points that they're going to be trying all the different minds out here. You know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form, your mindset and how you look at stuff is going to always be tested by the ones who have a certain demeanor of power that they're trying to give off. You know, so a lot of it you just have to go back to natural law. Go back to universal law. Go back to common law, common sense, to get through what's going on, because there's no telling what they're gonna do like that. You know what I mean? Because whatever it is that they put out, there's other stuff that they'll put out, or they got some plan, some 50-year plan that they're not even revealing really what they're doing on a level. Like if they come out and say somebody found some secret document of the whatever, that stuff there ain't the big secret that they're holding back. Where it goes into now focusing on our stuff. We got our own stuff that we could be reading. We have our own information that we could be ingesting opposed to what's being presented. And the more that we embrace our side of what it is, just like the Japanese embrace their stuff, and the Jews embrace their stuff, the Hindus embrace their stuff, right? They have a actual connection to theirs. We're trying to get a connection to ours. I mean, which is why, we, with regard to places to go to study, we already told them, RV Bay, you go there, you stay there for 2 years before you talk to anybody else, or hear anybody else, or listen to anybody else. Because we know if you go there, you're going to get what it is that you need to stay grounded while you're out here studying and learning or whatever. Specific ways of how you can get this information in from specific sources, not just some random. Just look up Mars and see what pops up. Like, that's not where it's at, you know, because there has to be a level of committing to this from the perspective of the individual seeing what this is. Not that they were told that it's something, but them actually going out and doing the research on it and finding out what it is really where the quote unquote benefits of this are going to come from. It's not going to come from somebody gave you something or told you something and then now that's what it is. Because like every single thing else, you're only going to get out what you put in. That's the only way you're going to get anything. If you're looking for something and it's not really coming like that, it could be because your hands are full. You can't even hold anything else. Put down some stuff, you know, because we enter this with a lot of things going on and then thinking that this is the answer to all the things. When in a way it is, but because of how much stuff we have going on, you know, you're going to have to prioritize this with all the stuff that's going on. Like, this is not going to just fit on top of everything, right? Because when we're talking about the exercising of this, it's all based on what you know. It's not based on what, that's why there's more to say. Yeah, went back, we were talking yesterday or the day before, whatever, that he went back and was watching some old Taj lecture or whatever, and came out with a half a book of notes that he didn't even get from the last time that he watched it. Because you're gonna get what you put in the 3 hours to watch one of those. You put in the wrist cramp and finger cramp and all that stuff, and writing all these notes, you're gonna leave with something, you know, that you could use for your unfoldment, your upliftment, your getting back to your true self. Because ultimately that's what the Declaration proclaiming of our nationality and all that is. You know, being that 7 in the 4 quadrants. Being that. You know what I mean? And then that's even on its own square. When you look at the angles of the 7, right? Then that takes time. It's not some overnight. You know, you read 500 books in 3 days, that means that you got it. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into really being clear. And then you have to be, again, clear for yourself as to what this is. Right? So, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say that in conjunction with that, it's also about bringing your family, your community, and your sort of and your nation back, so that the perfecting of the self is still within the other selves, which is still part of the battle, which is the other part of this battle, of this struggle, which is most important because we're not going to be able to get the results that we deserve out of this unless the rest of our community is like that. And that's where it becomes sort of multifaceted. And Cujo can attest to this too, exercising his right to do certain things. If it's 1,000 against 1 in a certain dynamic, because you don't have that sort of internal internal engine working with you, your rights can be very easily trampled on in a very physical way of, hey, we're going to lock you up and we're going to stop you from doing this. You can't do that. It'll be harder to do it to 100. It'll be really hard to do it to 1,000. It'll be next to impossible to do it to 10,000. So it's that kind of dynamic that I think has to be inclusive in this from the perspective of what it also means, because it's really about people becoming nationals who then become part of a nation. And so it's sort of, it's layered in that sense. And some of your perspective, from my perspective, some of your perspective gains will be not look like gains because you don't have the infrastructure around you to help that thing sort of be what it is. So you can go in someplace and get some taxes off on something, as an example, but then go to the next place and it won't happen. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It just means because we haven't put enough force on these guys, that it's still sort of hit or miss. And so to me, that's reflective of the whole thing. Whereas if really someone should be coming out to a piece of land and going, here's your land back. Instead, you may have to do some other sort of process because of the entirety of us, the entity, and how it's functioning as well. So I always try to bring that in too, that it's for yourself, but it's also for the greater good of the nation, which is really what's going to bring this back.
So, any other questions?
Yeah, I heard, sorry, my parents, they're always talking about, virus and this and that, but, I told them this, what if there's no cure? What if, like, if they can't find a cure for this virus, you understand me? Do we have to continue do the same process, like washing our hands, use sanitizer, and wearing the mask all the time? What if there's no cure?
So look at it like
What if there's no
sneezing.
virus?
What if sneezing isn't that you're cold? You have a cold. What if sneezing was something just tickled your nose? That's why you sneeze.
That's true.
Right? Just like the brother said. What if there's no virus?
That's true.
Just like what if they can't find a cure? Yeah, true. What if there's no virus to find a cure for it?
Yeah.
Which is why they can't find a cure, because there ain't no virus.
And really what they've done is they set this up to take your rights away from you. And the way that they continue to remind you about that is they put a mask on your face. So now you think that somehow you're under some control because it's something that they're doing to somehow save you from something that you're not even at risk at.
There's not even anything there
And
like
then what
that.
happens is the next time they say, oh, well, you got to take this shot in your arm because, you remember the mask that you were wearing kind of helped, but it didn't help. Remember, there's nothing there, right? But we're now going to give you a shot for something that's not there. That really is going to be carrying some other stuff in that's going to mess with you or change your genetic output. But you're going to take that because they convinced you that they're doing something for your betterment that is an illusion. But you've been fooled by it because you're putting a mask on your face because you believe you're helping yourself because there's something out there that's not out there. But because in your mind you believe that, you've now given over your reasoning mind to what's right and what's wrong in this. The fact that you now are agreeing with what they're telling you is the pill that you've taken.
I got some more.
Is the pill that you've taken to now give up your control. Because let's use this as a hypothetical. What if you never wore a mask and you never got sick?
There's one.
Because here's one. I've never worn a mask yet through this all, and I haven't got sick. So what is this really about?
That's true.
And then you're wearing a mask, and I see people are wearing the mask, they got the nose out there, so I thought it was the stuff coming out of your thing, right? Then you take the mask off, and you put your fingers on the inside of the mask, put it back up there, so if you get the bacteria and the thing, now you've got the mask. Bro, it's when you start really breaking this stuff down, you're like, the mask doesn't even make sense. It's crazy. How come no one's wearing the gloves anymore? The gloves aren't supposed to be answering this stuff, right? They got you in certain places all tied up, and you can't be in other places all tied up. It's crazy. This is about control. Once they've got you believing that what they're telling you, already they told you can't walk across the street, we'll give you the ticket. That's jaywalking, right? Now they're trying to come in a building without some shit on your face. Bro, it's crazy. Is this really about us? Or is it about control?
It's a drill.
What?
Yeah.
A drill.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not a blue sheet, you don't see it? What is the meaning?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, you laugh about this. This is where I was saying to someone else, we flinched. When they jumped at this, we flinched, right? Then we're all marching for some guy who died on the street somewhere, some other place for some nonsense. Yet we very quietly acquiesced to them taking out all the other controls away. and then dividing us on this, and then I'm saying this to Kujo, dividing us again, because they now made it some black and white thing, which really it's not us, but it is us, because when they see us as black, right? Because the prophet told you that until you open your mouth, they're not going to know who you are. So you've got that added thing, and then they got you back in this level of anxiety about everyone and everything. They have divided and conquered us. But then the lady doesn't want to get in the elevator with me because somehow the breath, but then she waits till I get out of the elevator and she gets in the elevator. So what happened to the breath that we're crazy. We lost our minds. Really, we better let's not take this as a joke, because this is
It's rough. And just a few weeks back, maybe early last year, they were passing laws all over Europe against Muslim women wearing the veil over their face. And all of a sudden, it's mandatory to wear.
Great point.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be mandatory. Check out how funny that's going to be. It's going to be mandatory that they be bailed out now.
Right, that's what when they say have them coming and going, right? That's exactly what they want going on. Just you not going somewhere. You're not having a destination that there's a place. You just going. Just going. Sign there, yeah, turn right. Where you going? No, I'm just going.
And the second thing, sorry to.
Oh no, go ahead.
And the second thing is, they want us to don't go nowhere, like don't go out, like I know you like shopping, I know we all like shopping and everything, and you understand? And then what happened is that they say on TV, oh, stay home, don't go out. And I said, what? Are we punished? Is the government punishing us or something?
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, what are we doing? Are we it's like being grounded and sending us to your room. Man, I hate that.
And you're creating a climate of antisocial climate, because when you're walking past someone with a mask, they don't want to say nothing to you, and you don't want to say nothing.
They want to look at them.
Both people are masked up, so you don't even say hi.
I was telling Cooper that that's really what this is about. It's really about physical energy because it's something over your mouth. That's really what, inherently, that's what it's about. It's about covering up one of your chakras, and that's what it is. So until we start to, well, that's where this is all interconnected. Until we come together, and it's about something greater than the I, this will continue to be this, because we as our people have been definitely divided due to our fall from our spiritual stuff. But this is what they're on right now. We're at that level right now where it's about putting a hand over your mouth, because they know how powerful that is.
Yeah. And then because it's not their hand, you're putting it on.
Absolutely.
now it's you. It's not even them like that.
But sorry, this is where the sorcery comes in.
Yeah.
Remember, even in voodoo and all that stuff, you still have to be a willing participant.
Yeah.
We've understood that even this slavery that we're in, that used to be the chains, is really the bureaucratic slavery that we've allowed to happen to us, even while on the opposite side we're being given back our estate. We're still signing off on the fact that somehow there's someone else who's supposed to be doing some stuff for us. So, but I mean, we're in some very, very, this is pivotal. Someone asked, I was on the line with Google, do you think this is about us? Absolutely. I think this is about our awakening as a people. It's here now. And this is how they had to preempt it. And as I said, I was thinking about this the other day. How come we're not hearing about God anymore? How come we don't hear about God anymore? Think about how crazy this is. Within 6 months, we don't hear a boo from any of these imams, any of these, like in a real way. How come God isn't here solving this problem for us? No, in a real, like the God, the same God that created everything, Adam and Eve and all of us? Okay, so wait, hold on, let's go with the theory that he's punishing us for something, right? We've done some stuff wrong. But really, God should be looking after it. Because it's God, right? It's God, right? It's not covert, it's not
you won't get the coronavirus. You're
Right,
safe.
just like that, right? Exactly.
But that was the internet. We understood that was all proof of some other trees and all those things, but diseases that were there, people were exempt from those diseases because they were vibrating on a level. So why are we really on that?
Yeah.
Because this disease should be over, and we already know this is over. Our bodies are the best weapons against it. That's why Sweden went off on that herd mentality. How come we're not hearing about Sweden anymore? We're off on the herd mentality. That's what this is all about. It's about our filters taking some outside force and converting it. Sure, it might take a portion of us. We're talking about 0.03% of a billion. We're going to have some losses. As I said, I tell people this: we lose 600,000 every year to smoking cigarettes. How come we don't do anything about that? We lose 50,000 a year to gunshots. They got our minds somewhere else. Man. We've got to continue. We've got to start keeping our reasoning mind where it is, but understand that these are some bigger time stuff that we are acquiescing to and being sort of being brought under their control. The 5G is just the tech catching up with the control systems that they want to put on us.
Yeah, the technological control system
Right.
has that, and then the psychological control system, and the physical control system, and the mental control system, and
Right?
they have all their the octopus
This is all
hands and everything.
pre-offered silent weapons.
Yeah.
Right here, this is silent weapons.
Yeah.
Watch, this is silent spiritual weaponry laid out against you while you're ignoring it.
Yeah.
While you're telling me to put on this mask.
Yeah.
We're done.
And it's also a mental, moral, and emotional attack because, just as you mentioned, God we were always taught that God was in charge of everything. And then with the separation of church and state and man planning, even in the Holy Quran, it said man plan and Allah plan, and Allah is the best of planners. But what they have us to believe from everything, no, Allah is not the best of planner. Man, they know more than, they know more of what is to be done than others. That's what they tell us when they do this stuff.
So then when you jump back and they said, I want to belabor a bit, but you just heard Trump saying he's jumping out of the WHO, right? The World Health Organization. And he's saying that they've mismanaged, which is exactly what Cujo's saying, which is what's being attested to. So what we're realizing is there's really a corporation called the Medical Corporation, which is trying to overthrow it.
Yeah.
That's really what was going on. And some of us fought in probably for certain reasons, but now we're at a point where this place has lost its mind. And certain people go, I'm not signing on, because that's the whole deal. If we don't sign on to the WHO, then who's really controlling us?
Yeah.
Right? We've really signed our stuff away by saying these doctors from this organization are the head boys. And what they say now, everything goes. This is, I was thinking about this morning. This is a medical military takeover. That's what this is. For an attempt at that.
Exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think that this is actually an exercise.
Mhm.
This isn't the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, question is what? Yeah, so basically like the Agenda 21.
Mhm.
What is that called? I don't know.
Yeah, like all those things are part of the
Because I used to live in border Ontario, and like some of the implications of Agenda 21 happening up there with a lot of the job losses, a lot of companies closing down, and everything down here is booming, right? So
no.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when we look at that's what we're saying with certain things. When we hear about it, they've been doing it for 20 years. When we hear about it, you know what I mean? So when they officially came out and was saying, Agenda 21 or whatever program, G meetings to control population or whatever like that, all that stuff is Treaty of Verona and things from before. That they're just calling it something different. It's like somebody says they got a license. That's Christian Black Codes. That's not the license board of the whatever. That's some Christian Black Code stuff in order to control people that they implemented in a different time frame, and then people are looking at that as, oh, that's what it is. You know, so all these things, Agenda 21 is even Protocols of Zion. You know, same stuff that they're talking about. It's just in a different package. So it's the same thing. Right? Going back to what Brother Omar was saying, us focusing on where we're at with the stuff that's going on, not, you know, in the stuff going on, and then we're, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're in it to a degree, but we're not in it like that. For real. Like, we're not in it like that. You know, we're looking at it from a totally different perspective, which we're not even penetrating it. It's something happening, but it's not really like that. As you know, something to mentally, psychologically involve yourself in this thing as if it's gonna have some effect on you like that. You know. But all those plans been out, and it's not that you know, whatever they're implementing might work. Just like we might lose a 0.03. You know what I mean?
These are some of the studies I found that I just Googled some stuff. They say 54 million people die every year. That's a million a week. They say 140 million are born every year. So you think about that. We're already growing anyways. We got major population control issues to begin with. When you factor in how much those deaths really mean on that worldwide scale, you're looking at 0.02, whatever, 3%. I'm not saying it's not huge, but I'm saying when they start focusing on that, and then you realize how many rights and other things that they're taking away from you, you have to start measuring what's really going on, because then you weigh it against them going to war for some oil somewhere and killing 2 million people. The Rwandans that they burnt and killed to get some oil. No one talks about that, but we're worried about 300,000 people dying over the course of 6 months on something that we don't even know. I still can't find anyone to tell me this guy died because of COVID plane. I've not found anyone. And yet, look at us. Over some, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just it worries me, because one of the things I realize is it's the ever-evolving plan that they have going on that we seem to always be steps back from. We're always receiving shit. Like we talk about being on the fence, not being a good stance to be. Because in defense, you're always waiting for something to happen. And what I've noticed, I was in the I Ching book of whatever, martial arts, but they're saying that being always moving forward is where you need to be, always in activity.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're sitting in a defensive position with gates, you're waiting to be attacked. Yeah. So I just look at it, and you can see what they're doing. The kind of stuff that's never evolved. So I say this whole thing, you notice how now this black stuff is now sort of dying down a bit. We're not hearing we're not hearing anything anymore.
They're painting the streets. They're not painting the streets and stuff anymore. Yeah.
What?
They're not painting the streets and stuff.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this is to me, I'm saying this to my mom. This happens all the time. Some stuff goes down, we rally a bit, and then everyone goes back to their post. Mm-hmm. Nothing really gets saved. And what I think it is, and that's where you can see this being actually something designed. They want to test where everyone's at. If the fact that you choked someone out on the street, on camera, only elicited a month's worth of reaction, we're good. Right? We're good right now. They burnt down, they get us, oh, well, we burnt down a police station. Was anyone in it? No. Well, to me, that you really didn't do anything, right? On a certain level. Not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the way that they're taking us out on certain levels, it's not commensurate with our response to them. They put a cop car out there, we burn it down, and then we go on. Anyways, go ahead, sir. So no, I just want to keep reminding us too that we have to continue to see what I see. Like Kujo's saying, it's not the name of the thing, it's what that thing represents. If it's doing the same thing that was being done before, then it doesn't really matter about the name. It's really the effect of it. And so that's why when I notice these things, I realize that they're not really, nothing yet again is really changing.
A reactionary never accomplished the goal of a revolutionary. Revolution is change. Yeah. Reaction, you're just always reacting to what they do an action and you react to the action. Yeah. Never.
But I wanted to counter that. I would say this, even revolution is an issue, because revolution is like a record player which goes around. I say evolution. which is evolving, which is going forward and upwards. I think once they continue to get you in that revolutions, it's still about revolving around some issue. As you know, the issue's still here. The issue is still really here. You still got people, these cops things, they put a little thing out, they want us to be worried because now the cops are whatever. It's the same shit.
It's the equivalent, because it's changed back to what it was before.
Yeah,
Keep changing and going around.
Depending on the state of affairs of the people, they'll give you a little something more here because you seem a little more worried about it. But then really they're undermining it on the other end. Until we can get our own entities going, it'll be like that.
And it's sad to say that everything is controlled. I always, when I listen to the opening in every temple meeting, it always stick out in my mind how Noble Jurali mentioned the fact that finances is necessary for the temple to do things that's necessary to be done. And when I was young and I read the Communist Manifesto, and I remember England and Marx said, economic and financial power controls political power at all times. And when you look at everything that's going on, it's about somebody trying to make some type of economic gain over the rest of everybody else.
Just to back up what you're talking about with the prophet saying the finance. Temple tax necessary, convention votes unanimously, tax paid monthly. Friday, October 26, 1928. Because of the fact that the expense of the operation of the temple is increasing so fast that it was found necessary to vote a tax to the prophet to carry on the work. This idea was concurred with the Supreme Grand Council. This act is also arranged that it will not be a burden to any of the temples, but the prophet is very emphatic that it shall not be ignored. The expense of operation has heretofore been taken care with funds received from the manufacturing department, and it was found that it was a burden on that department. Hence, the tax was necessary. This tax is 25 cents per month per capita. This will mean that the numerical strength of the temple will bear the proper share of the responsibility of operation. This per capita tax is intended to supply all members alike, governors and grand sheiks included. The governor or officer in charge of each temple will cause a report to be rendered to the Supreme Grand Business Manager of the Supreme Grand Council, 3140 Indiana Avenue, Chicago, which will specify and itemize the following: number of adepts, number of members, number of new members taken in each month, or those who join after the rendition of the last report. 25 cents must accompany the name of each, such members as the representation tax. The per capita tax collection begins November 1st, 1928. All concerned will save themselves penalized if they render their reports promptly and specifically, because otherwise it will necessitate a representative calling on such delinquent temples on auditing their books, which expense will be borne by the temple. All governors, other officers will be held responsible for the representation tax and report by the order of the Prophet Noble Jurali. Right? So it's part of what's needed so that the operation could go on.
Okay, let me just say what I said that, right? In the streets, why you have dirty cops? Because they take funds.
Right.
Inside behind bars, the same thing. Why you have all them drugs and all kinds of activities going on? Because the people who can't afford to make it or live the way they want to live on the check that they receive, they take funds on the side. So funds control everything. You know, and if we're going to overcome a lot of what's going on out here, the temple has to be strong financially.
Mhm.
It has to be.
Any more questions?
I wasn't here for that.
Or if you have any other,
I can-
doesn't have to be relative to today, but just if you have any
I wanted
questions.
to say,
Mr.
I
General.
caught the piece you did on 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, while I was watching that, I was wondering if you know, just out of curiosity, if that. So because you know, I like these numbers, even the 21, talking about the 21, schedule 21 just now.
Agenda 21.
Agenda 21, you know, in the Holy Quran, it talks about the 21 grams.
Mhm.
That when the spirit at death leaves from the body, exactly 21, because the 21 grams is the body weighs less 21
Less,
grams. So I'm always on those numbers. But I was wondering, just listening when you did the 7-Eleven, I was curious if this whole thing about 7-Eleven being a lucky number was somehow linked to that. Did you ever?
No, I never heard anything about 7-Eleven being a lucky number. I never heard that before. But yeah, it could be relative to that, you know.
Because numbers are always scientifically or mathematically aligned.
And that time of us, like what was put in to get to that place, that this is again going back to that historical reference point. You know what I mean? Like, what did they do pre 7-Eleven to set up for that place, right? Right, to set up for that place. You know what I mean? There was like so much work must have been going for that to be a reference point that the world knows. You say 7-Eleven and they know what you're talking about. They paid some serious dues to be at that place.
I was on Google just following up on a lot of the stuff, and I noticed that a lot of it, they try to answer around a lot of questions. They don't answer the question that way, you know.
Yeah.
Is it legal for the boards to have this nationality thing? They would say, well, yeah, they claim that. They don't say, they don't do it. They don't answer it that way. They don't answer nothing that way.
So I mean, you know, they know that bringing us up is an issue. You can bring up blacks and Africans and whatever all day, as much as you want.
They're always defining it too as Arabs and and
which goes back to them
they never really
African and whatever. It's the same concept. You know what I mean? Berbers and Saracens and the pagans and the whatever, just not the same ones. You know, and they'll go with all that other stuff like they say. You know what I mean? Volumes and volumes of books stacked up or whatever about the Berbers and the Saracens and the whatever. You know, then it's for the people who are studying to know. Oh, when you say that, that's what you mean. Oh, all right. You know. But once we take it back like that from the psychological aspect, you know what I mean? That it's not that, you know, the Moors, and then people are talking about 7-Eleven. Like, we're Moors right now. What do you mean? The Moors, as if they're not the same people that are around right now. You know?
They're always trying to create a separation.
Or
like a division.
But that's what divide and conquer is about. You know, once they get all of our people to start connecting to all these different things that we call ourselves, then we're
if they just take the connections and just do away with all them and just link it all back to the Moors, we would be too powerful.
But that's what the unity is. The unity is nationality. which we're attempting to get that message to our people. You know. But really, it's about getting it to them. Then the younger ones have it. So because let them marinate with it for a few years and see what they're gonna do with it. You know? It's like
It was the philosophy of what is his name? But he was the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And he was like, man, forget about these adults. We just gonna go and teach the children.
yeah.
That was his whole philosophy. He said, forget about the adults.
Makes sense.
Just go teach the children.
Makes sense. You know,
That's why actually the cause to that might come in because the study was so long ago.
yeah. Yeah. And then we're just gonna read our Holy Instructions of Unity, page 68 in the pocket Quran. Holy Instructions of Unity. The gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and He appointeth to everyone his portion in what measures seemeth good unto himself. Hath He endowed thee with wisdom? Hath He enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. True wisdom is less presumed than folly. The wise man doubted often, and changeth his mind. The fool is obstinate, and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence, and to pity their absurdity. Yet not be puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. The wise man fleeth his imperfections, and is humbled. He laboreth in vain for his own approbation, but the fool peepeth in the shadow stream of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he sees at the bottom. He bringeth them up and showeth them as pearls, and with applause of his brethren delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainments in things that are of no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he hath no understanding. Even in the path of wisdom he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delight, and their utility to the public groweth in honor, with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. Islam. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that? Holy Instructions of Unity. 26.
I've always seen this as, I've seen when I break this Quran, and I always see some of these ones as being sort of personal sort of affirmations, or exactly what they are, instructions to describe certain processes. So he's telling you that, and this is sort of goes back to the Zodiac, Whatever, however you come in here, you're gonna have a certain skill or a talent. That's gonna allow you to sort of see, be able to navigate in a certain perspective. And he's giving you that too. So that's why I say here, happy endowed thee with wisdom, happy enlightened thy mind with knowledge of truth, communicate to the ignorant for their instruction, communicate to the wise for thine own improvement. So he tells you, sort of, he gives you an example of that. And then he also goes on to tell you that anything even that is sort of laid out to you is still ignorance in a sense, and that really we still have to sort of bow ourselves down to the ultimate knowledge in a sense. So that's what I get when he says true is because that's what you need to follow. The wise man doubteth often and changes his mind, the fool is obstinate and doubteth not. You know, all things for his own ignorance. I always take that to be the wiser you are, the more you're going to question everything. And I've always taken that to being that. And, I run into problems with people, but I see it's always better to ask the question. It's always better to be looking into it. Never accept anything that's being given to you. So yeah, I find it very, this one of those crazy ones.
Yeah, this is one of those ones.
Yet be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding, but clear. And this is where I realize then he tells you, because then it connects with the oral statements about, get a good European education that can use you, but then the very next statement tells you the biggest fool is an educated fool. He says here, be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is the blindness you follow. So it's telling you right there, you study all that shit, and you're still just a child.
Still just a nothing.
And what I sense that is to the greater that is even to that.
Yeah. Not that.
And then he goes on to describe why that is. The wise man, once he gets to that point, knows how small he is and is humble. He labors in vain for his own affirmation. The fool peepeth in the shadow, stealing his mind, and is pleased with the pebble. So this is where he gets to people sort of holding on to one little piece of knowledge and then running with it, and saying that is not the way. And then, in the last, he sums it up by saying, but the wise man cultivates his mind of knowledge, the improvement of the arts is his delight, and the utility to the public, crowned with honor. So he's saying that everything that we have is really for everyone else. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue counts as the highest learning in science, happiness. So I don't know, it's one of those ones, short and simple, but
short, but
it's 1 through 10, which you're talking about numerology and all that stuff. Sort of is that complete thing. One.
In the Holy Quran from the East, there is a chapter or a segment in the chapter called the junction of the two seas. And this is where Moses met with Kedar, who is considered to be, according to the scholars, Melchizedek. And at the end of their whole travel, Kedar, Melchizedek, and Moses was, looking out onto a pond, and a bird took a sip of water from the pond. And Melchizedek said to Moses, he says, all of your knowledge and all of my knowledge, godly knowledge that we get from Allah is but the sip of like that, what the bird took from the pond. Everything that we have is just merely that sip.
Yeah. Study. Any other thoughts on holy instructions? Anybody in the chat has anything stored in there?
This is holy instruction of unity.
Yeah. Yeah, 10:2 sums it up pretty good too. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life.
Well, then I found what's most poignant there is what is virtue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying that nevertheless, everything else you're saying, forget all about that attainment of virtue. What is virtue? Look it up. But that's sort of the highest level of certain states. You count it as the highest learning. the science of happiness, so whatever is inclusive of happiness, and then there's other chapters that talk about, what happiness is, or how is the study of life.
You see, the world is like a virtue too. So, understand? Because we're living in a virtual reality, and some people they try to rush things and get things going, and they'll take their time to reflect who you are. You understand? And I think that when I look around this planet, this world that we live in, it's like a game that the government is putting us in, and we want to get out of that game, out of that system, and stick to who we are and stay in the creator. Understand? And that's what we have to do.
The attainment of the highest moral standards
Are the virtue.
are the virtue. That's the once we're heading in that direction, we're doing good. But then, like you brought up too, the lower self to that is the virtual, right? The virtual is the opposite of the virtue. And striving through the virtue is going to get us to that place where we recognize what happiness is and wealth is and all the things that really mean something. And again, tying it back to Noble Drew Ali, that he gave us 5 high principles to hold us to that standard of being virtuous. That if we live according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we should be good. We really shouldn't have any issues like that, because we're setting the standard for what it's supposed to be. And then us setting that standard, like we were talking a couple of weeks ago, as the Christ had a standard, the higher evolved beings had a certain way that they dealt with their self, and their energies, Any other comments, questions? Brother, any questions outside of what we talked about today? If there's anything?
I'm just listening.
All right.
Why? I see myself as why are we going through a test? Is this a test that we're doing? Is it like a drill we in that the government is putting us in? Is it like a drill or a test or something?
It could be a practice of some kind,
It's a drill.
to see
Yes.
where the public is.
And the one guy was talking about that same question when Trump whispered in his ear and said, "You should have told
You
us."
should have told us, when he said we are in an exercise. I saw
Yeah.
that. He said,
Yeah, that's
you should have told us.
I remember that. Should have told us.
Yeah.
It's a test. It's a test.
I feel like they want to just mess with the masses,
Mhm.
just because they know they're in power and like we're under their rules. Like they set things up kind of like how we have to tax them, like do all those things for them.
Yeah.
And they're at the top. It's like a big pure.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So,
that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but and it's recognizing the part that you play, just like you said that they have it set up like Monopoly, but if you don't have one of the pieces, then you're not in the game. And it's about being in that place where you have the power of having a piece or not, or playing or not. So when you see them doing the things that, like the brother was saying, looking like the drill or the Monopoly or whatever it is, you can step back and consider what you have to consider before engaging or moving forward with whatever it is. And then some things off the top, you'll know that, oh, this isn't even worth the time, to look into, but that's how they run it. It's the pyramid structure, the elite people at the top and then everybody else under them. Somebody put me onto some movie called Platform. Some platform, some prison or whatever where people go to. And it's run by some type of like kitchen, and they're using the food as the means to keep people enslaved or whatever. So they have like 1 to 300 platforms or whatever, 2 people per platform. And then it starts off with a full course meal or whatever like that, and everything that you can get. And then if it goes down the platform, people eat from it, you know what I mean? It goes down to the bottom where it's just cutlery on the thing. And then people at the bottom are eating people and whatever like that to survive or whatever, and then depending on how much time they do, they get moved to a different platform where they might, be the guy who gets the first crack at the thing, And then there was crazy situations where the man who sort of like in the middle, he's mad, he's in the middle, so he's like messing up the stuff before it goes down to the next people or whatever. Whether he's eating and spitting stuff on the table or whatever like that, just so the next people under him have it worse. So the theme of it was these 2 guys that met up in there and realized that, there's enough food right here that it could go down 300 levels and everybody eats good. So we're gonna be we're gonna be the watch the food people or whatever. So they were on the platform, standing on the platform. People come on, no, you can't take or whatever like that, beating people up because they're trying to take extra, yeah, right? And then it got to a place where they started realizing that the thing only stops when there's people on there. So they miscalculated their thing because now they got to the bottom and it's just them with all this food or whatever. Because there was levels that they didn't count that they're not even gonna stop on where people are gonna get food or whatever like that. And it turned into being some secret girl in there that was hiding, and she was hiding on the first level, on the last level. And then her mom thought she was lost and she was hunting through this platform thing of maze, whatever like that, looking for her. And she was the one that they're going to put on the thing to send up to the thing and then save everybody from this whatever. It was a little girl that was just the savior of the whole thing. But just to show the hierarchical structure, and that's how it is. The top people get all the good stuff, and then everybody else on the bottom is it. But then, depending on where your mindset is, the bottom might not be hell. The top part could be hell, depending on where you are in your mind. If you're in a place in the mind where the physical things don't really mean anything like that, then it's really an upside down pyramid. And the people who have the power are the ones who really have nothing, because they don't have anything to lose. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just more less than that. It will always be more less than that.
Always. And that's why, again, they do divide and conquer. Because they know a slap is not going to do the same thing as a fist.
As you mentioned that in business management, they use those models through the pyramid model, and the upside down pyramid model in business management is where the manager, he puts himself at the bottom and he says, okay, what you need? He makes himself now serve all the people in the company. So just tell me what you need and I'm gonna give it to you to get the job done.
Right.
So, you know, he put himself to work. And it's like,
Which system, that's the system, yeah, that's the system. Yeah, that's the system. That's no different than with what we're looking at with Noble Juali and all that. He put himself at the bottom of the pyramid. So I ain't doing this for me to have something. I'm doing this so that future generations have something. Because I already got this. You know what I mean? Like we're saying when we read the per capita tax, the manufacturing company was paying for the temples to run. That's what was going on. And the manufacturing company couldn't no longer hold that burden. So they said to the members, we're going to tax you on 25 cents, that's going to go to the running of stuff. So that the manufacturing company's finance could stick with the manufacturing company and keep that running. You know? But that concept of the hierarchy, you know, it's in everything. It's in masonry. It's in you know, the schemes, the pyramid schemes or whatever like that. All that is the same thing, just broken down in different variations. You know, but it's not really like that. As far as the pyramid structure, and the top is what it is and the bottom is what it is and whatever, you know, it could be manipulated, you know, because both of them really, the upside down pyramid and the right side up pyramid both come together, right? You know, and them coming together is a form of unification, or, you know, things working in harmony. That if we have, you know, the pyramid structure that you're talking about, and we have the hierarchical one, there really shouldn't be any issues because it's balanced. It's not off, right? And once you create that balance, then that's when you have the harmony and the happiness and everybody's, you know, everybody could be practicing their own religion and everybody's learning from each other. And it might not be a system where, you know, you have to go out and buy anything. It might be a system where it's so perfect that you know what he wants, he has what you want, you guys trade. Then those people trade. And that's how, you know what I mean, it gets spread per se. You know, peace, more Islam. You know, right? Any other comments or questions about you? Yeah, you. You stay studying. You got no questions. You had any other thoughts to add about anything going on or whatever?
We'll be back in some park in a couple of weeks from now, and we'll give you guys the updates. We're continuing on with this numbers thing, is that correct?
With the listening?
Yeah.
Well, for the outside, I don't know, the outside.
No, I'm not saying the outside.
Oh, for
people inside again.
Yeah.
And also, there's certain people that have been here now a couple of weeks, maybe those ones who know who you are, maybe give a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then we had did that with this week, and some of the people who were here were fillers. Who once the list went out, you know, once the list went out, we filled in with whoever. So if again the email will go out again probably a little earlier. That we're just gonna do sign up for the temple sessions and try to sweep through everybody so that everybody gets a little chance. If you've been here 2 or 3 times, yield so
In the
somebody
last-
else, yeah, in the last 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, yield so somebody else could get in.
I think I asked the last time, why are we not following suit with kind of like, because I remember Trump, over on the other side, he stepped in and says that religion is essential, and I think they raised gatherings to like 50 or something like that for churches and services and stuff like that. We have no one to really see the secular is God.
But as far as the
Separation
talking,
of church and state is God. I mean, like, like the meetings and stuff, like, we still down to 9 people, right? Because we didn't follow suit with the US. That's what I'm saying. It's been some weeks now since Trump said that religion is essential. That
Yeah.
you can't take
Right, yeah.
But we haven't followed suit.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think the dude next door is still closed, eh, Omar?
No, but the church is down in Liberty, they're open. It seems that we've got some social distancing going on, so I know, and he should be open next door.
Okay.
He said to
'Cause I didn't even notice. I didn't notice today.
Yeah, he
I
was
didn't
saying to
know
me that part of his plan, I guess, and this is where it happens, that his plan was to sort of use this as a time to continue to fix up his place,
Yeah.
maybe
Oh yeah, because
access,
they were renovating and stuff.
access certain funds that maybe come to under the auspices of implying that you've lost business due to that. And I don't know, yeah, as I said, but I've seen other churches open, but it seems to me that they're doing social distancing. They are incorporating social distancing policies within that. So to answer your question, we're following ahead with what we should be doing, but we're sort of tiptoeing on the line from the perspective of they really shouldn't have any rights on a certain level towards this. But then there's also, that's what Tujo was also alluding to, the infrastructure, that there's corporate activity that is going on in how this building is sort of even set up. If this was Moore's property in our land, then that would be one thing. The fact that maybe there's some corporate entity that is controlled, like sort of has its name on this, plus there's a corporate entity that is interacting with that corporate entity, then they're beholden to.
Yeah, because the corporations are still on the fine. They are still on the sanction. So,
Well, yeah, well, but they're really the only ones that anyone can speak to,
right.
including us as those corporations. But I'm saying, once you're taking the corporation, which then sets up a corporation to do this business, then that's when they can get into these little things. Of course, we know that it's all an illusion, but at the end of the day, there can be some what do you call it, tribunal that comes together, and all of a sudden someone is affixed a penalty of $1 million for not adhering to certain corporate guidelines. And then what happens is the other corporate guy who's running the corporation that's running the other corporation decides that I'm not going to go through this trouble anymore because I can get someone else who's going to follow the rules, and I don't have to worry about being sued for $1 million.
Yeah.
And then blah blah blah. Right? But that's where the ultimate inner goal of this is to have some land that you go on to and run your business as you should.
Yeah. And so the corporate, jurisdiction is doing what it is that they're doing.
And we've heard certain horror stories of some guy opening some place up, $1 million fine, $1 million for him, $1 million for the thing, $1 million for whatever. So as I said, not that we don't know it's all an illusion.
Yeah. Or that we can't go to court and they dismiss the stuff or whatever like that. You know what I mean? It could go any way. But knowing where they're at.
And the level that they're going to propagate this fraud. One of our concerns is having someone walk down by the street here who for whatever reason isn't in some good mood or whatever.
They don't like the Moors or
They
something.
don't like the Moors or something, whatever. Make some phone call, and then we've got an issue with, like the super's right on point with her. She thinks this whole thing's a fraud and whatever, but she, of course, is just one cog in the wheel. If the owner guy has got some lawsuit for him for $10 million, I'll tell you what, we'll probably be out of here before he decides to want to fight for us on that level. If he were to sit down and say, just follow the rules for the next little bit, right?
Right.
So that's where we're at, kind of within this. Trust me.
And that's a prioritizing thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, yes, we have the right to certain things. You know.
Pick your battles.
But yeah, pick your battles. Like, you know.
Yeah, I was just saying on the upper level, the upper echelon level, like how, you know, the president in the US say, hey, hold on, you can't pick religion. Religion is essential. Like,
oh no, well again, with
overall leadership to step in and say, hey.
Yeah, but with the thing of the worship is that you know, they're not stopping you from doing that. You know what I mean? They're stopping the whole idea of the body getting together, right? Because the body congregating is creating energy that they can't deal with. They can do like we say, all the stuff that they're doing is for us. Now, they ain't worry about all Negroes and stuff like that out there. The Negroes gather around, they sing some stuff. It's not the energy of them singing and doing the drum and the ladies join around and all that stuff. It's not doing anything like that. You know what I mean? It's hype. You know. Now we talk to some people. We talk to the Dogon, for example. You know, and them cat around. They got the drums and they're dressed up doing their. That's a whole different thing than the people in the church jumping around. You know, but we get some people who are new age people, take them up to Stonehenge or whatever, have them go and whatever, beating the drum and all that stuff is going to be a whole different thing than our people going to some church doing that under, you know, giving praises to the, so we can be the blessed people. Just like we're saying, if God can't do this and end Corona, then stop it. Stop it. There must be something higher than religion going on. If the man can't stop all this stuff going on in the world. You know what I mean? And everybody's one. The Muslim guys, you guys, how come you guys never stepped up and stopped everything? You guys got one. The Christian guys got one. Everybody's got one. How come none of you guys came out the clouds on the thing and stopped all the stuff from going on?
I think the Pope, was a victim there. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he had COVID-19.
Oh no. No, I didn't hear it. If I'm
not mistaken, I gotta double check.
No, they even came back and said George Floyd had COVID or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. He tested positive.
That's not killing, not destroying.
No, they said the chokehold actually killed him. They said the chokehold actually killed him, but he tested positive. Like, all right. Okay.
After I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
I think it also speaks to the fact that what you're seeing there, what you were talking about is religion and state somewhat being on equal footing. You realize that whatever religion they're talking about is inferior to the corpse.
Yeah.
So worldwide, the aspect of religion, which we should be as rebinding to our culture in the back, has still become corporatized and is still letting us an entity of the corpse, which then, in my mind, completely negates any power that it would have spiritually for limited powers nationally, which then gets signed off on. So really what it's done is, yet again, it's another form of undermining the very things that would get us back to what we need to get back to, because we're not honoring religion
like the way it should be honored.
Yeah. And for the longest time, because what it was really used for was a mind control thing to get people to put their finances into. But now they can't come back out of it and actually let you know how real religion should be, because it would be that would cure all this. We'd start doing the right dances, and eating the right food, and doing the right rituals, which would turn this all around. If that's the case, then they would be gone. And if that's the case, then we'd realize how how nefarious they've all been, because it's all been a lie. So everyone's sort of now sort of just quiet about stuff, and the church has become yet again some of the corporation, not unlike the gym or anything else.
Yeah.
It's parallel to eliminating crime from the community. You can't do that because most of the elite jobs that people go to school and study for all their lives, the lawyers and the judges and all, they would be all over the work.
It's too many work out how it has to go. They all have to march down to the jail, open the jails up, put themselves in the jail, lock the keys, and throw you the keys. This is really how this would have to look across the board. The judges, all the cops. That's why every once in a while they give you a little relief valve. They arrest a few cops. They arrest a few guys doing some guilty stuff. They set up some programs that they tell you are corrupt, and we keep thinking that some stuff's really
going on. Yeah.
But they probably live in there. They probably set up a house and all that, in the prison.
It's gonna be posh. Yeah, it's gonna be posh.
You've heard stories like that too. When they got Escobar, he built his own prison.
Yeah.
He built his own escape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I'm convinced that a lot of those guys who see the optics of them going to the jail, I'm convinced they get let out.
They get let out the back.
And they're, in some case, whatever.
That was like even with the George Floyd, they found a dude. They found one of the highwaymen at a shop. Just at a store shopping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Dude was just oh, don't you feel bad for what you did? Oh, what am I gonna do? Like, let me go. Why you mad at me?
I mean, you got the judge, not me.
Don't you mad at me, yo? I didn't give myself bail.
I just said thank
Right. But with regard to the church and state thing, too, that's why they say that they're deists. They don't really say that they're Christian like that. That's just on paper. Really and truly, they're nature worshippers. They know what the science of the astrology and all that stuff. They take you to court on a certain day because they already know you're going to lose on that day because they're astrology. They got your birthday. So they already know. You know what I mean? You know? Oh, we murder a certain amount of people. Everybody's getting their surgery on this day and everybody's dying that day. That's just the science, knowing the science, applying the science so that you could have, that outcome, But there's never really been separation between church and state like that. That's just talk for the masses to think that, oh yeah, there's nothing. Oh, the church guys are registered with the government guys, which is the state. So it is separate. If they're registered and they get a 501c3 and they got all these benefits or whatever from taxes. Any other questions or comments? Islam. This stands for today. So again, we'll be looking to get one of our outdoor series in over the next couple weeks. We just got to find the park, and that'll just be outdoor day. Should be the picture. The pictures should be the pictures up there. And we did our last one at Christie Pitts. So I think that was it. That's it for right now. Oh yeah, and for people with regard to cause of action people, we got one submitted. So people who are in the cause of action, just keep in mind we're looking to get another meeting or something in a little while to update where we are with regard to that, because we did get one submission that's finalized, so that's good. So that's good, that's done. So we'll carry on. Islam. Some more ready to close up. All right.
Face to east, left on right. Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of
Father of love,
truth,
peace,
freedom, and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
and
my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through His holy prophet,
through the Holy Prophet,
no neutrality,
no Islam. Give thanks, Mark. Islam, Morris.
You are the budget. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. The lights on. The lights on this wall right here. See, you know the lights. Yeah. I'll get this up. It's actually like oh, you need some. Yeah. I'm about to go check. Yeah. No worries. Yeah, we'll be here for a little bit. Islam, Moors, peace and love, and all the Moors who emailed for your album.
Don't want to encourage, well, let's be right about it.
Islam, Moor, we're getting that sent to you. Give thanks for the support. And again, peace and love to all Moors worldwide.
Yeah, so that's all that whole thing.